being a parent is like being a hostage to fortune. You just like life has something on you
right
now. And I think that's what keeps you up at night.
Your child is like, these are precious moments.
Yeah.
Let me like take it in.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's a destination,
Yeah.
sleep. What's really amazing about being with so many dying people is like, oh, something happens and this becomes okay.
Is it like having kids where you just can't possibly conceive of the change and the way that you have evolutionarily and culturally been prepared for this thing your whole life, and it's not till that switch flips that you realize you had something in you?
And then you're in it,
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
get it. It just happens, just like that. And you're okay with it.
Although that's an interesting thing, like when you have kids, right, you just assume like, oh, people have been doing this for millions of years. Obviously, we're just good at it. And that's not true. Like I know a lot of women struggle with like breastfeeding. They're like, shouldn't I just be naturally good at this? And then they're not. And then they think there's something wrong with them, or they're reluctant to have help or take advice because it compound some of those feelings of like imposter syndrome. So it's weird. It's this thing that obviously we know how to do, and yet clearly we don't know how to do it.
And interestingly enough, it's all about attachment. And there's a lot of fears that come up around attaching because of the detaching.
People read Marcus Aurelius' meditations, and sometimes the knock on Marcus Aurelius is that it's depressing. And I've lately just been saying, you're right. Do you know what Marcus Aurelius' life was? He lost his father at a young age. He gets taken from his childhood home and he becomes the emperor. And he buries 6 children. 5 children live to adulthood, 6 die. So of 11 children, more than half of them die. He lives through a plague. He lives through a flood. He loses his wife. How does this guy get out of bed every morning? I mean, like, it's depressing because life can be depressing. But also when you realize that he did get out of bed every morning, that he did keep going, it's this profound testament to the resilience and the perseverance of the human spirit. And so that's what human beings do, is that they move through grief and loss and keep going.
And one of the things I put in this is that I put the hero's journey in there.
Yeah.
And, I want people to understand we all go through those horrible dark nights, and how mapped out it is that like in the beginning of the journey, you're sure there's no end.
Well, the refusal to the call, the
refusal of the call,
denial.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And you go into that, and there's, the enemies and the hell. I mean, it's all. And one of the things I did, because so many people don't know the hero's journey, is I literally go, all right, you've seen it in Star Wars and the Hunger Games.
Every great story
I
ever.
did like, here's the hero's journey. Here's Star Wars hero's journey, because you can go, oh yeah, Luke's parents died and all that. And then you can go to, let's map out yours.
Right.
And here's the hero's journey. At the end of it, like, my son is still dead.
Yeah.
And I'm forever changed.
Yeah.
I'm still me. And each of us is the hero of our own life, of what we've gone through. And you just don't often get that until your dark night. And everyone else has been going through theirs too.
Yeah. I think there is something, though, about being a parent that I think makes you uniquely vulnerable. Joan Didion, this is her table.
Is it?
And these are her chairs.
Wow.
Like she sat at this table with the there's a New York Times picture of that family, the one that was in the course of 18 months taken from her, sitting at this table in these chairs. And she said something about how being a parent is like being a hostage to fortune. You just like life has something on you now. And I think that's what keeps you up at night as a parent, is like that something could happen and you don't have control of it.
I remember when I became a parent, someone like I had this nightmare. I forgot what it was. And someone said to me, "Oh, you only have two nightmares as a parent. You die or they die." And I'm like, "Really?" And it's like, well, that does become it. And listen, I love, Joan Didion. I love when I often have people watch the documentary on her. Mm-hmm. And it begins with like, she's a robust, elderly, giggling lady that you're like, oh, what a fabulous life she's had. And this person, that person. And then you hear about it and you go, wait a minute. She's been through that. Wait, that happened? How can she still standing?
This frail, tiny person. Yeah, it's unreal.
It's interesting, the history in things. Yeah. I wrote part of the original book on Truman Capote's table. And I'm like, wow. Is anything coming through? But I'm like, I don't want it to be, gossipy or tacky. What's like, and, it turns out it was just a table.
How did
it was
you
just
find
a desk.
Table?
I have a friend who was great friends with Joanne Carson, who was a good friend of his and had his desk.
Yeah, there's an energy to things.
There's an energy, and yet there's also the story.
Yes.
Like, what's going to happen if I write at this table?
Yeah. Nothing.
It's just a table. It's a table.
Yeah, her story is it's sobering. She has this book, Blue Nights, and she's like at her daughter's wedding, and she and her husband are walking out, right. And she says, neither of us, no one could have understood watching this scene from the street that within 18 months, everyone but the mother of the bride would be dead. And just how life can come at you very, very, very fast. It doesn't matter how successful you are, talented you are, how protected you are. That's, to me, what that Longfellow, he says, it doesn't matter how well protected your fireside is. There's an empty chair at everyone's living room. None of us are exempt from it.
And we so get that when we're in it. To me, one of the practices, can I get it when I'm not in it? When I'm in the grocery store and that person is struggling to find like the change in their wallet or purse, and you're like, you knew we were at the checkout here. How did this surprise you?
Yeah, this is not
and yet, oh my gosh, did their spouse die a week ago?
Yeah.
Are they like dealing with a new diagnosis? I mean, you really have no clue what anyone around us is going through in their struggles.
Yeah.
And to have that new awareness, suddenly goes, can I give you a quarter?
Yeah. Right.
Do you need or just be patient and like send them love and wish them well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's a practice in meditations that I try to do. Marcus Aurelius says he gets it from Epictetus, but he says, as you tuck your child in at night, say to yourself, they will not make it through till the morning. And I think he's doing what you're saying, which is he's not trying to say like detach from this person. I think he's saying, why are you rushing through bedtime? You know what I mean? Like when my kids
That's the hard thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing to do. And I mean, I say it a little differently that for me, because there's that thing about your life must be so depressing. And I think about, all right, let me just go there. What if?
Yeah.
What if it turns out today's my last day?
Yeah.
I don't know it. There's a car accident later. There's a plane crash. I don't know it. It's my last day. So if I take this in and go, wait, what if it's my last day? I only have two choices. I need to excuse myself right now because I have to go apologize to a lot of people. I got to go make some amends. Or if I've been living currently, so if this is my last day, wait a minute, this is my last podcast. Yeah. Well, if this is my last podcast, let's make this really good. I want to take in today. I want to like grab a little more from today than I normally would. And so what if I really try to make this day count even more and then I don't die tonight? Great. I have a whole nother day. Yeah. And tomorrow it's going to be another great day.
Well, that's what I think about. So it's you know, your child's not going to make it through till morning. And then when you're laying there and then they're like, I need water. And you're like, you don't need water. You're just making this up because you're trying to extend bedtime. You're like, oh yeah, I want to extend bedtime also. What do I care? Why am I trying to, what am I going to do? What am I going to do that's better than this?
Because your child is like, these are precious moments. Yeah. Let me like take it in.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's a destination, sleep.
Yeah. I'm like, I have an email to respond to, right, or whatever. What am I going to do? I'm going to go watch Netflix. You know, what I'm trying to do after this is laughably unimportant compared to this. But you can fool yourself for that if you say, if you allow your mind to do what's a much more comfortable thought, which is you have thousands more of this. So this one's not that important. But you don't know that.
And you don't know that. And you don't know that. And if you let that in, it actually doesn't depress you. It makes you live more.